Deep conversations with the right people are priceless, and ideas are formed in the crucible of authentic, connected, and sometimes controversial conversations. No ideas are off the table because why would they be? Join us on Inquisitive Souls as we lead with curiosity, empathy, and a massive heaping of juvenile humor. Join us on this learning journey. All right, before we saddle up, I want to tell you about the Dad Edge Alliance, which is my absolute favorite community on the whole entire internet. It's a group of, at the time of my recording, it's about 250 guys. It's growing all the time, but it is a community unlike anything I've ever seen. And I don't know if you could hear that thunder that just happened, but that is a sign that what I'm saying is truly, truly important. That's right. Thunder. Thunder happened when I'm talking about the Dad Edge Alliance. So listen, if you're a guy and you are feeling like your friendships or your relationships are superficial, you get around, you shoot the shit, but you're never going deeper. You don't feel safe to do that. And you know that there's something more. I'm telling you, join this community. It is insanely life-changing. Okay. Like we got guys in there from all walks of life. But they all have one thing in common. They're trying to elevate fatherhood by improving themselves. They're leaning in. They're supporting each other. They're learning from one another. They're learning about themselves. They're challenging themselves. They're setting goals. They're holding each other accountable. But they are all doing it in a place that's totally safe and totally just overflowing with bro love. And I'm trying to say that in a manly way. Bro love, right? So, one of the things that I've learned throughout my own personal development journey, which is a journey that will last the rest of my life, obviously, is that the people you surround yourself with that's one of the most important choices you can make. Many of you have probably heard the quote, you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And when I first heard that, logically, I got it. Okay, that makes sense. But I never could have imagined what it actually meant. How transformative it is to get a better, higher caliber, more open, loving, caring, relentless group of men in your life. So that's what this fucking community provides. I mean, I don't know how to state it in a way that really truly conveys how I feel about it. Maybe I'll just say fuck a lot more. But I mean, the stuff that goes on here is crazy. They've got community calls. They've got accountability teams. They've got amazing content, free books. We're building courses. We have experts come in, New York Times bestselling authors, Navy SEALs to speak to the guys. And the guys are learning and they're growing and they're building relationships with one another and they're bringing a better version of themselves into every aspect of their life. So please think about it. Look around you. Do you have the group of people around you that are going to help you create the fucking life you want? Most people don't. Most people don't even know there's an alternative. And most people don't even understand how important it is. So I'm telling you from my own personal experience and witnessing hundreds of people have the same experience, it changes everything. Okay, so listen, if you want to know more, you can either always send me a message or you can go to gooddadproject.com/alliance and I'll put that link in the show notes page. Do it. And it will help you become emotionally fucking excellent. Now on to the show. Hey everybody, I want to give you an update on my first foray into Zen Buddhism. Yes, that's right. Zen Buddhism. Can you fucking imagine? Seriously, if you had asked me just a few years ago if I would ever even be talking about this, I would have said you were probably pretty crazy. However, maybe I'm the one who's becoming crazy. So what's interesting is the reason I'm kind of exploring this right now, and I really feel at this moment in time anyways, who knows where this will end up, that this is going to become in some way a very important part of my life, is because for anybody that knows me or listens to the podcast or whatever, I've done a tremendous amount of personal development work, and it's learning new skills as it relates to having conversations with people or identifying and overcoming limiting beliefs around mindset or, self-awareness and self-mastery and all that stuff. And I've learned them to the point where I think I've become a pretty capable teacher of others, which is an amazing honor. And I love doing it so much, but there's still a part of me that increasingly actually feels like I've just been skirting around the periphery of my own growth. Because let's be honest, I still deal with a lot of the same thoughts and emotions in my head, like that I'm not good enough, or I feel anxiety, or like all of those regular normal things and sometimes I get pretty attached to those feelings. And so I'm thinking to myself, like, when did these, like, and I have gotten better at much better at allowing myself to feel and experience them, but I feel like there's another level of personal growth that is available to me, and I wasn't sure what it was. And so I started listening to The Untethered Soul by Michael Singer, and he really talks about this a lot. And, about the ideas of surrender and releasing ourselves from the attachments of our thought, and to be able to sit with them, even when it's incredibly painful and we feel like we're spiraling out of control. And, as I'm listening to this, I was like, oh my God, this is speaking to me in such a profound way. I really want to explore this. And then there's a guy at work who I'm definitely going to have on the podcast. And him and I were talking about it, and he was saying that, he used to be an alcoholic, and, he's really got into the practice of Zen Buddhism. In the town I live in, London, Ontario, Canada, there's a Zen center, and he's been going there for 2 or 3 years, and it's really profoundly helped him improve the quality of his life. And, so we talked about that, and I went with Tanya to a workshop a couple of weeks ago, and I found it really interesting and really something worth exploring. And then on the weekend, I went to a 1-day silent meditation retreat. Now, as is typical of me, I didn't really read what the thing was about. So I didn't know that it was a silent meditation retreat. Oops. But regardless, I would have gone anyways. Of course, I would have gone anyways. And so it's a full day, and I basically made it halfway through the day before I fucking lost my shit and left. And I'm telling you, man, I was so not expecting that. And what I realized was, so as we're sitting there, we did different kinds of silent meditation. So sitting there, walking around, like going for a walk outside and taking in nature with a more expansive awareness and, but in silence. And I started having these thoughts and feelings that were like incredibly powerful. And I'm talking shit like, and I don't want to say, I'm not saying this was a vision or anything like that. It was just an incredibly vivid thought, and a thought that was vivid enough to cause a physical reaction in my body. Like I actually felt pain, and it was about Cindy's death and being at her funeral, and me being in the room and like imagining myself like transported across the room and staring into her dead face, basically. And it was fucking brutal, man. And then I started having all these feelings of envy and judgment and really strong feelings. And I just was so unprepared for it. And as we went down to eat lunch in silence, I was fucking going mental. And I was like, fuck this. I'm out. I have to leave. And knowing that I would be back, but just I had enough. And what I realized is we don't take me and us, we don't take time to sit with our thoughts. A lot of people meditate, and, this is kind of a different style of meditation. Your eyes are open. You're trying to increase your connection with the world, I think, rather than decrease it. And I mean, honestly, take this synopsis for what it's worth. I could not be more of a baby Buddhist. I've basically done nothing. I've just started learning about it. But regardless, that's how I learn about things, is by talking about them and making meaning in conversation. So be that as it may, I realized that for a lot of times, even though I'm sometimes try to be very conscious of sitting with my thoughts, most of the time I push them away. I distract myself. I think about other things. I'm too busy to even spend time sitting in the silence of those thoughts. And when I did that, after all of this personal development work I've done, fucking hit me like a freight train, man. And I was like, oh my God. And when I left, I was so frazzled, like exhausted and frazzled and not being able to make sense of anything. And, I went home and had a nap, and I was like super freaked out about it. And eventually, I think ultimately what I was trying to do is I was trying to ascribe all this meaning to it. Like, oh my God, I had this incredibly vivid experience about Cindy. Therefore, I've got all this unresolved trauma about her death. And what do I do with that? And blah, blah. Like, it doesn't have to mean anything. Like, none of that has to actually mean anything. It's just these thoughts and experiences happen to me. And yeah, so, so I was talking to the guy at work the next day, and he goes, it's pretty common. He goes, I've had moments when I started of extreme anxiety, and and he said, this is the next level of personal development. And it's one that I'm absolutely fascinated in exploring. And I don't know what that's going to look like right now. But I know that the ability to sit peacefully and experience life without trying to change it, and to be detached enough that I can experience everything that my brain is thinking and learn from it without attaching to it and without judging it. Like, I'll give you another example. I am very attached to the idea that I motivate myself by continually telling myself I'm not good enough. Like, logically, I understand that that's not true, that I am good enough. I mean, but the thing is, whatever I end up doing, whatever I accomplish, I always feel like it could have been better. And so part of my fucked up thought process is that I look around me and there's lots of evidence in my life that this way of thinking about things actually works. Like, I'm fit, I'm successful at work, I've got a nice family. I'm not trying to brag here in any ways. I'm just saying that from my perspective, if I look around, I got a pretty freaking great life. And so it's easy for me to say, yeah, I got it. This is how I motivate myself. And maybe it's not super productive or whatever. Maybe there's a better way to do it, but I'm attached to the idea that if I continually feel like I'm not good enough, that's going to motivate me to constantly try to be better. However, I know that there's a better way to go about it, but I'm scared, I think, of letting go of that attachment and trying something new. So I was talking to this guy from work about this too, and he was like, it seems counterintuitive, but when you can let that all go and you can create from a place of peace and all of that, he goes, what you're able to create is so much more expansive and powerful than what you'd be able to create in using it like otherwise. And so I really want to explore that idea and figure out how to do it and implement it in my life, because I want to create significant and impactful things that leave a legacy on this world, but do it from a place of peace and tranquility and contentment. And quite frankly, I don't really fucking know how to do that right now. You can probably hear how jacked up I am. And I love it because I love what I'm creating now, but I love that I am super curious in exploring other ways to create, more powerful ways to create. So I guess that's really a synopsis, just a quick episode. And to say, like, that was a very powerful experience for me, much, much more powerful than I thought it was going to be. I mean, basically running out, not screaming, kind of screaming in my own head might not have been the best way to extricate myself from the situation. But be that as it may, I know that I'm going to go back, and I'll probably go back. They have some classes on Monday nights, and I'll start that way. And it's funny, though, because I thought that I really wanted to do a 10-day silent meditation retreat sometime next year. And I still definitely want to do that, but I'm certainly glad I had this experience first. I probably would have been like actually throwing myself off the walls if I had tried a 10-day meditation retreat first. So yeah, that's my experience, my first kind of baby steps in some of the concepts and teachings and practices of Zen. And you can expect much more from me from this, because I feel like this is a massively untapped opportunity for many, many people to bring a sense of calm and peace and awareness and engagement to their lives that they're not currently experiencing. So as I learn more, which obviously will be a lifetime journey, but as I learn more, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to share it with you, and you're going to fucking love it. Okay. And again, if I could look back just a few years or just a year and think I'd be talking about this, I would have said you were freaking crazy. So I can't even imagine what's possible, what's going to come up next. So thanks for listening to this show. Thanks for listening to me ramble about my really weird experience with silent meditation retreat and the subsequent freakout. And stay tuned, because this podcast is back. We're rolling, and we are all going to become increasingly inquisitive souls. Thanks for listening to the Emotionally Excellent Man Show. Now, go own your shit like the powerful, handsome boss man that you are.